the story's not over yet. Pull up a chair, let's unpack the ending. Every finale leaves a clue. Come find the meaning with us.
On this show, we map out the final moments of the stories, songs, and milestones that move us, and figure out how to navigate the transitions they leave behind. Welcome back to the Finale Compass with me, Jasmine. Today, we're going to break down a track that sounds like pure summer sunshine in the midst of summer, but hides a fierce survival anthem right at its finish line. Corinne Bailey Rae's 2006 masterpiece, Put Your Records On. We're going to dive into how its beautiful, stripped-back ending serves as a blueprint for finding your own rhythm when life gets completely overwhelming. For those joining me for the first time, I spent years navigating a fast-paced, sometimes high-stress environment in the military, then transitioned working for corporate and nonprofit entities in the HR world. And now I'm here sharing my love of all things entertainment and stories and sharing what it looks like in the real world. Maybe you can relate, or maybe you have your own version of these stories, but let's explore together. So now we're going to start with a recap. We're talking about and going back to the year 2006. The song's called Put Your Records On, Corinne Bailey Rae. It became this massive global hit. Girl, put your records on. Tell me your favorite song. You go ahead, let your hair down. No, not the best singing voice, but you get the gist. But if you listen past that breezy, feel-good melody, it's actually a deeply personal love letter that Corinne, she talked about this in her TikTok, her official TikTok account. She talked about how she finally let her hair out and natural and how it wasn't the norm to have her hair down and how it was different because of her ethnicity and different from what she grew up being around Caucasians and blonde hair and what the standard at the time was with beauty. She goes on to say she wrote it to her younger self and really to anyone else who has ever felt completely suffocated by the pressure to look, act, or they're not just to fit into a mold. The way the song is put together actually mimics what it feels like to carry too much stress. It starts out really simple and acoustic, but as the song moves along, it gets heavier, more crowded, and way louder with drums and horns. It perfectly captures that overwhelming mental chaos we all feel when we're trying to keep up with everyone else's expectation. It all boils over in the bridge when she sings, "More than I could take, some nights kept me awake. I thought that I would break." It's that exact breaking point where the hustle stops being sustainable. But the best part of the song is how it chooses to end. Instead of finishing with a giant, loud radio finish, the music suddenly drops away. All those heavy drums and loud instruments just vanish. Then you're left in this quiet, peaceful room with just a soft keyboard, chimes, and then Corinne whispering directly into the microphone. She isn't performing for a crowd anymore. She's just simply gently repeating those beautiful final lines over and over until the track fades into total silence. You're gonna find yourself somewhere, somehow. And now we're going to get to the part of the show where we start comparing the real finale elements of the song to real experiences. So the first one we're going to talk about is reclaiming your baseline versus rediscovering your self-worth. So in the song, Corinne deliberately throws away all that background noise, the heavy studio tracking, and the loud production at the very end. She does this by completely muting those driving drums and the roaring horns. The song pulls off a dramatic bassline shift. It forces the listener to step away from the chaotic crowd and just sit in this quiet, peaceful stillness of a completely empty room. So when we talk about what that means and comparing it to our real experiences, you spend years in high pressure environments, whether for me, surviving a deployment or working through a college degree or just trying to keep your head above water in anything that you're doing, whether it be family life, jobs, relationships, anything. It is so easy to lose sight of your own value. You start tying your entire self-worth to how much you can produce, how much stress you can carry, or how well you can take care of everyone else. I know that for me, it was a lot growing up and even as an adult, feeling like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and not knowing how to manage it or feeling overwhelmed. So the ending of this song is like a beautiful reminder that your worth isn't defined by the heavy noise of your accomplishments or the battles you won. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is strip away all of those external titles, quiet the room, give yourself some peace, and remember who you are at the very core of yourself, your baseline, your foundation. Your value exists simply because you are you, not because of what you do for everybody else in the world. I think we forget that sometimes, like, we feel like our value is like what we can give to others when it's really just about you and who you are at the very core. I started to recognize this when I was getting ready to retire from the military. I was debating on whether I should continue my military service or try something different. It's such a scary proposition when you are faced with a major life decision, like transitioning out of something that you've been doing for such a big period of your life. From my case, I was doing it for 20 years. That's all I knew. Um, yeah, I was doing other things and working on my college degrees and all that. And I was being a mom and a wife and all this other stuff and I deployed and all these different factors. But at the end of the day, it's really about like what's comfortable for you. Like nothing, sometimes nothing is comfortable and sometimes you take risks, right? So you have to think about what it is you want to get out of the next phase. So if you're serious about the change, how will it impact you, your family? There's like so many things to consider. How are you going to do it? What kind of resources do you need? And ultimately, whether to take that chance. I think ultimately it's just your risk level. Like, what risks are you willing to take and not? You know, how does it impact your family if you were to step away? What do you think you could do at the next phase of of your life? Those were all big factors for me when I was getting ready to retire. And when I was thinking about retiring, I kept getting asked, like, do you want to keep pursuing the next rank and go do this, training? And I was really not. I just finished my college degree and that was like a grueling 2+ years of going down to New York City, going to in-person classes it was like a hybrid like program. So I was online, in person, had to write a thesis, a number of things. So like the idea of doing another like training that required me another couple of years to be committed to and then even devote more time and service to the military, it wasn't something that I wanted to do. It wasn't something that I thought would benefit me in the long run. I was still dealing with being overwhelmed and working in the military, especially around that time with COVID, and it was just a lot. So I was just like, I'm ready to move on. And I felt like I had built enough of a foundation for me to feel comfortable about moving on to the next chapter of my life and doing something different and trying to give back in other ways because there is. Um, and I don't regret that to this day. I do miss the military family and friends that I created over those 20 years, but I still talk to them routinely. And it's just really nice that you still have that connection. And you can if you put work into it after you transition to like the different phase of your life. I actually moved out of state to move on to the next phase of my life. And I haven't regretted it since, and I love it. And I'm just very appreciative of what I've done, the decisions that I made to get to where I am now. So, yeah, hopefully you have your own experiences that you can relate to that, very similarly. So, the next thing we're going to talk about is the letting your hair down quote that she does in the song versus the beauty of unmasking. So, what does that mean? So, throughout the final stretch of the track, the phrase goes, go ahead, let your hair down. I know, bear with me. It acts as a comforting anchor as the heavy background layers, polished studio effects, and intense vocal runs, like it vanishes. The song matches the lyric by stripping itself like naked. It sheds its commercial pop shell and returns to its most natural, raw, and organic form. And that's where you get the soft, melodic, like tunes from her voice. So when you're talking about like how can you relate to that, whether it be high stress environments, you often feel like you have to wear like sometimes this heavy emotional armor, right? Metaphorically, you're not actually wearing it. It just feels very heavy. Like I mentioned before, the weight of your world is on your shoulders. We constantly put on a mask of being absolute like perfectionists. We require control and like almost like displaying unflinching strength just to survive the day-to-day pressure. But true self beauty comes when you finally earn the right to unmask it. Letting your hair down means appreciating the raw, unfiltered version of yourself. It is the realization that you are the most beautiful, not when you are perfect to the world, but when you allow yourself to breathe, soften, and celebrate the skin you are in without needing anyone else's approval. I experienced this. I experience often being placed in like, and sometimes maybe you can relate that you place it in a box, right? When meeting people, and how sometimes I used to get the she's so bossy. Is it because I'm outspoken, ask questions, or I know what I want? The she's so bossy frame women can get when they're like outspoken, informative, ask questions. It's constant. And some people don't realize that's offensive, but it can be because, like, why me being so assertive mean that I'm so bossy, right? One of the things that I and others may be able to relate to in other industries too, you faced it when transitioning are like stereotypes, right? I have heard, oh, you're too hard on that person, or this is not the military, or you're too emotional. Those statements can come off as offensive depending on the recipient, right? I remember even getting that. I know you're a woman, so you're naturally emotional. Imagine hearing that from somebody, especially somebody of the opposite sex, or even somebody of the same sex as you, same gender as you. And it just comes off like, why would you say that? Like, why can't say what I feel without being naturally emotional or too overly emotional? And what's wrong with being emotional? Why can't we be outspoken? Why can't we be assertive? Why can't I say my perspective or ask hard questions? It often feels that these physical characteristics often get conflated with what that person is trying to say, at least from my view, right? Like everybody has their own like perceptions of how they view these kind of comments and stuff like that. Some people let it like brush it off their shoulder. I've always been very inquisitive and I've always challenged myself and others. And I continue to do that to this day. So I had no problem asking those questions. Um, at the end of the day, I just want to be myself without always feeling being questioned about how I display that. Like the way I display that shouldn't always be about, oh, you're to this, you're to that, but rather, can you just hear what I'm asking or what I'm saying? And then we can talk about it and have like a conversation of whether that's the right path to go towards or whether that's the right way to approach things. So yeah, I think that is super interesting to hear that the track was like, let yourself be you and let your hair down. It's okay. You just have to be able to work through and talk about those things and work with other people so they understand how that can be, hurtful and or offensive or whatever the case may be. So I think it's very interesting. I think learning to just be your natural self. So yeah, now we're going to move on to the next element. We're going to be talking about when the chords fade in the song versus appreciating like your chosen inner circle, right? Like you feel like when you sometimes like distance yourself from people, it means that they're not really your inner circle, and that's not what that means. So as the music softly like winds down to the ending, right? All the flashy and aggressive beats are stripped away. She sings a solitary like final line that I sang earlier, and I'm not gonna do it again. um, but it kind of holds the entire structure of the song together. You almost feel like, wow, that was supposed to end very like soft like that. Like, cause not everything has to be end hard. Sometimes it could just be soft and just, you know, and just like give you this like warm feeling. The song proves it doesn't need like this massive, like, wall of sound to end a song where you hear like a regular pop song or whatever the case. Um, it ends so softly. So for when you step away from the chaotic noise of a massive like achievement or a grueling cycle, you see clearly who is actually anchoring you, right? Um, True self appreciation means honoring the foundation you've built. For me, that meant like recognizing the incredible value of my chosen family, military, friends, whatever the case may be. The tight knit, like trusted people in your circle, just like that simple chord at the end of Corinne's song. These relationships don't need a massive audience or flashy production. Sometimes these relationships are quiet, beautiful spaces where you feel like you're being fully seen or fully valued and completely safe to just be you. Um, One of the experiences that I had in this was when I was kind of discovering my fitness. Being in the military, you're always like in fitness and you have to be in order to maintain physical standards and stuff like that. And I was trying to figure out, I was already in physical fitness training with the military and I had a standard routine. I would go to like a gym like Planet Fitness, something of that that's like same nature, just going on the machines, doing the cardio, doing your strength exercise and stuff like that. It became so monotonous and like routine and just boring. So I wanted to try to find different ways to like up my fitness game. It was pretty static, like, like goals, aspirations, all that. So I was looking around. I was in a regular gym, like I mentioned, and I would go work out on machines and call it a day. It wasn't fulfilling. My physical needs wasn't really getting where I needed wanted to be, and it wasn't even challenging. And then I found like boot camp style gyms, and I started doing research and figuring out um, whether that would be something that I would be into, whether that would like make me feel better, about my physical fitness. So because I know sometimes those environments can be like super intimidating. So I did some searching from where I lived at the time and I found this boot camp. It was locally owned. It was like very style like CrossFit, but not a but it's kind of pretty similar, basically. And but it was free for a week to try before I went and signed up for a membership. And in the first week, I absolutely fell in love with it. The style of working out, I felt engaged. It was fun. I was working out with other people who were doing the same thing I was. And I mean, I met some really great people. It allowed me to become such an important part of being a part of a different group other than the military, outside the military. It allowed me to open myself to others and develop like deep connections and actually like have different types of friends. Making friends as an adult is really hard. And I thought that this was, a great opportunity to kind of like go outside my comfort zone and, meet different people. I lived in the neighborhood for quite some time and I didn't really know anybody. So this definitely like helped me bring myself outside of my comfort zone and, just being able to relate to other people. And in that process, I would learn about them. They learned about me and us sharing, a connection through this gym. Kept us motivating each other, supportive. It just essentially became like my boot camp family. So it's like being able to have that joy and sharing each other and celebrating each other's achievements. And then going back to like choosing your inner circle, realizing that the environment that we were in wasn't exactly the healthiest because the person leading the charge, the person that owned the gym, he was pretty toxic. He played favorites and then he made it seem like we needed him more than he needed us in that place. And it would give us a bad feeling sometimes. It started to feel like, like we're only going here because we love each other so much and that we were so supportive of each other. And it got to the point where it was really just not the best environment. It was just like, gosh, we're only here because we like being around each other, but we also get to do something really good for our health and we support one another. And it was like we were in this unhealthy environment because of that shared trauma, so to say. So what happened next? There was word of a new gym in the area with the same style of type of workouts, and myself and one of the other girls decided to go try it out. She actually tried it first and then I tried it shortly thereafter. And we both fell in love with it and we both decided to leave that other gym, which was so hard. I remember the first week of me trying a new gym, it's like, are we making the right decision with leaving? Are we leaving our friends? And it felt horrible. I felt so much regret. But then ultimately, it became such a better environment. The environment was just better in general. The new gym owner was friendly. He created great workouts. I started to develop new friendships. And then in due time, our friends from the old gym started to join us little by little. And we started to have that feeling again of when we first joined the old gym. Great workouts, great people. So the jump was worth it at the end. So knowing that it's not about necessarily the environment. Yes, the environment brings you together and you share all these similar experiences, but it's really about those connections we build with one another. And so go back to comparing, stripping away the familiar environment of the old gym. We like had that structure of the old boot camp gym and we found it in a new place. So sometimes that place is what brought us together, but eventually you find it someplace else. And it's just it can be beautiful. So while I have since moved away from my old neighborhood, I still have these very good relationships, some of these friends from my boot camp family, because it's worth holding on to. We relate to each other. We're a sounding board. And, there's just other things that we have. It's not just this gym. This gym brought us together, but there's other things that we actually like enjoy about each other. It's just a really great way to show that you can choose your inner circle and you can build them as deep as you need to. And you could take them wherever you go. Because even though I live someplace else now and I no longer live in that old neighborhood anymore, I just love what I developed from my old stomping grounds and I keep working on them and keep building them so that I don't lose those connections. So now our last element that we're going to be getting to today is being able to be in those final seconds of put your record on. So Corinne completely stops performing. She looks at the camera. If you ever watched the video, she pulls right up and then she drops her voice to a gentle like whisper. She feels like she's having a private conversation and sings those final words of the song. And instead of repeating herself, she empowers to keep going with those final words. It's like she's wrapping it up neatly. We like often looking more at the grind that we take because that grind and the trauma and all the things that we experience through these major life events take a piece of us essentially. And then they hit us hard sometimes and we forget, that it's not just about the grind. You might start doubting yourself and asking if you're even capable of stepping into the next phase. Like you always questioning yourself. So the finale is like the ultimate anthem for self-appreciation and embracing your own unique beauty inside and out. It's a call to literally and metaphorically let your hair down. Step outside of your survival mode. Stop being scared. It's okay to be scared, but you can't move on to that next phase unless you take that chance. So to take that step and start giving yourself grace, it's super important. You don't need a perfect 10-year plan, though I love plans and structure and you can always build plans out, but things can happen at any point and shift and change and redirect you somehow. So, while the plan is great, the second that you cross that finish line, it's going to be so much better. Sometimes you forget how you even got there, but really that you got to the finish line. So self-appreciation means looking at all those scars that you carry, honoring that fierceness, that grit, that determination it took to get there, and then trusting that the same inner beauty and strength that you carried before carries you through the next steps. It's like no matter what, sometimes things that you plan don't always work out how you want it to be. It's great to have a plan. Sometimes things shift though, and you have to redirect your path and find other ways to get to that finish line. And that's okay. It's okay to scream. It's okay to cry, but eventually look to pick yourself back up because being stuck in those moments won't get you across that finish line. Like I said, it's okay to scream and cry and be angry, but it's all about like figuring it out. This one way didn't work. Let me try another avenue and keep just pursuing that. Maybe it'll work this way. Things get hard, and no matter how hard we try to prevent things, bad things happen, and and sometimes bad things happen to good people. It's just that bad things happen all over the world. It's out of our control. Just trying to be your best self when you can, and it's okay to make mistakes. I am the type of person that values making mistakes and then learning from it. Sometimes we don't always make those corrections right then and there, and it takes us a little bit of time. Sometimes it takes several times to actually do the right thing, even if you made the same mistake over and over. I mean, people can say like that, like being in bad relationships and you keep pursuing a certain type of person, it ends up bad at the end. And so sometimes it takes several tries to even get to that finish line, but eventually you learn as long as you're trying to learn from it and picking yourself back up. Because we need to be able to do that to have some sort of strength in within ourselves to pick ourselves back up. Sometimes you can't do it alone, and sometimes you need help from your friends, your inner circle, your family, from resources, from doing research on something. You need it, and if it's okay to have that help and information to help you make informed decisions later. The best part is that you can reach out even if you don't always feel comfortable. Sometimes it's nerve wracking for people to ask for others for help because it can feel like you're a failure. And that's not always the case. It just means that you need that additional assistance to maybe look at it a different way. I have someone that I have a friend that I'm very close with that I talk to who we go back and forth. And sometimes she needs me to be a sounding board just to be able to like hear her out. She needs to say things out loud just to figure out that she's looking at things clearly right? And then being able to make a decision, even with me not even saying anything, I've done that as well. So that's important too. It's just that you don't know whether there's always a fear of like not feeling comfortable or fear of oversharing, at all. We all do. Like I said before, we're human, we make mistakes, we learn from it, and we grow. And that's the idea, is to get to a place where you're super comfortable with who you become or where you're at in your life. And I see sometimes that takes time as well. It does, especially in today's world and economy and all the global affairs that's happening around us. It's just giving yourself grace at the end of the day and doing your best and to keep trying, even when you feel like it's, not going anywhere. When it doesn't work one way, you try different methods. If they don't work, try and try again. And you're going to find, like Corinne Bailey Ray said in her song, you're going to find yourself somewhere, somehow, someday. Someday I added, but that's what it feels like sometimes. So before we bring the compass around to our final destination today, I want to take a quick moment to give a massive thank you to all my listeners. Your support means so much and motivates me to keep breaking down these incredible endings every week. So now, what is the big takeaway from the final lyrics and chords of Put Your Record On? It reminds us that trying new things or going to the next phase of your life doesn't come from running faster or jumping higher or even adding more volume to our lives. When you reach that finale of a season or end to a life chapter, the most powerful thing you can do is let your hair down. Trust the slow, quiet process of you finding a way back to yourself, your sense of self, your worth, and your self-worth and self-determination. That takes time, and it's okay. Even to this day, as you grow older and become an adult, like when you're starting out, you think about being a child and how you're supposed to have it all figured out when you're an adult. No, we don't always have it all figured out. You're always continuing to find yourself and evolving to that next phase of you. So yeah, that is the big takeaway. And that's a wrap on our Ep.4. So thank you so much again for tuning in and navigating these endings and today's song finale and how you're able to relate to those lyrics of that beautiful song to what it can mean for us. You can hear the song on YouTube or any platform if you haven't heard it. One final thought, sharing these deep dives with you all is fun, thought-provoking, and interesting. How can we take all these entertainment aspects and relate it to in some way? That's really the gist of it. I know people have their own interpretations, and that's okay too. And we're going to start inviting people to talk about their views as well. So thank you again for listening to the Finale Compass. Once again, subscribe, follow, and set your notifications so you know when new episodes come out. Tune in next time where I'll look at another awesome finale. Look at the map, follow the needle, and let's navigate the chaos together. Thanks. See you next time.